Going down, everyone. If you're back, you're here for the Nvidia patch, and I know I'm a few days behind, almost about a week, give or take, because it came out roughly, I want to say on the 1st of October, so it's almost about 6 days since it's been out, and some reports of division crashes have been out there. As you can see, I already have the PDF release notes that you can get in the link down below for the 436.4 8, which is the brand new one that has just basically been released out directly for us for as far as the game ready drivers. The studio driver is still on a 3.1, which I've been utilizing to edit some stuff, but as you can see, I can scroll down here. It has all the release notes, anything you want to get down to the technical highlights, as well as stuff from like what you want to know for as far as what they've been directly connecting in the more finite material for as far as the release from 3.5 all the way down to where we've gotten. As you can see, I'm just completely just kind of speed running this, as you can kind of see what's going down. Now, as you can see, this is like more the direct patch direct over, and we will be getting to our benchmark. I'm running a Port Royale right now in the background for as far as what we're doing over here on the side of testing. But for as far as the web's breakdown for today, as you can see that the performance is increased in the optimal game experience for the Tom Clancy Ghost Recon Breaking Point, as well as the Asgard Wrath. So these are games that are basically released that are tethered into like for as far as the updates. The gaming technology also adds the HTC VIVE Cosmo VR HDM. The application SLI profiles added or updated the following SLI profiles close to the sun. As you can see directly down there for as far as what we're going to scroll down to on the fixes, which we have right over here for the game ready fixes, is the crashes due to memory allocation issues in launching the sandbox mode in the main menu. In the Tom Clancy's Division 2, the game may crash when game played in the Direct 12 mode. The Vulkan-based games. Error messages appear in the games invoking the GeForce experience freestyle and then utilizing any of the hotkeys, and it has the direct proportional or correlatable numbers, what I'm trying to put out before I yawn into the situation down below. The tradesmen, some objects are missing in the game, unfortunately, and then cinema 4D, the brushes as far as the ghost effects. As we are coming into our very end of the Port Royale test, let's go ahead and take a peek at the store before we start our portionable upgrade. So a little bit underneath inside as far as the portion, what I've been seeing in situationable portions of the scores, it seems pretty bare bones. I've ran them all again because I've switched out my 2080 Ti back into the Theadripper due to editing processing things that I needed to. But let's go ahead and get back to the patch notes as I get everything pulled up for as far as what we've had in the past experiences and my results. So as you can see is the four portionable points of what we've gotten past the 4 cinema. Now you can actually see that right now is the important open issues as far as what they are basically talking about. The power DVD, the Blu-ray might not play using the power DVD. FIFA 19 and FIFA 20 made the list as the games may crash to desktops and those error codes. The Shadows of the Tomb Raider random crashes to the desktop occur in the DirectX 12 mode. And on Star Wars Battlefront 2, random crashes during the desktop occur, as well as Apex Legends, where the random flickering occurs on the screen with this direct code. Now, everything is directly linked down below, where if you need to download directly, get the guides and everything else that's indirectly tethered into there for as far as the Reddit is directly down over here for what you have inside of the situational points, and as well as this lovely portion. But let's go ahead and go to our benchmark testings. And as you can see, I have everything pulled up right directly here. And these are all our stock tests, no overclocks. And you can see that I basically started doing that around like the 6th, which was today. And I've just been running a whole bunch of tests, and you can see that we have some comparable portions to go back to. So let's go ahead and get our update now underway, since we have all the tests in the situation. I already have it downloaded directly, and you can do what I'm doing right down there, directly select that, which is pretty cool. And then go to driver, and then I'm just going to go ahead and go to express. And these ones are pretty fast. Like, I like to think that Nvidia's like flop around for as far as installs don't take as long. Sometimes AMD's will take a little bit longer, but it's rebuilding and stuff. it just every company has its own architecture that it has to run down with its BIOS. So I'm definitely digging that like this is a newer portion of the game ready driver, and we can see some hopefully performance boosts of what we have. We'll run a Fire Strike and a Port Royale test. Just to see the finite portions of it, and since we're running the 2080 Ti, we'll do the extreme versions of those tests. I feel like we start to see a little bit. Now, if there's a huge consistent drop in both the tests, as we get to the hurdle portions, we can always do a quick I guess overclock to see if there's anything directly we can kind of experience past that, or run another test variable right next to it. Now, as far as AMD news, and we get into the whole portion of where they're going, like it's very interesting that they were showing off the architecture inside of Mulan, as well as the situational portion of what they're getting in past Rome, and having two catches which are 16 megabits, which everything is feeding off of in the current generation versus right now what they have, and the directable portion for as far as where they're going to a direct shared 32 level 3 cache at that 32 megabytes. It's insane. Like that's going to be a pretty big powerhouse, like for as far as experiencing going. Now I'm just going to go ahead and hit quick refresh real fast. It seems like yes, we have the latest updriver, and that's great. Sometimes you want to go ahead and run a reset just directly. Nvidia doesn't really warrant it directly. It seems like AMD does for the portion. So let's go ahead and just see if we can open up and have no issues. Personally, myself, I do like resetting it just because it kind of gets a nice situational point. But hell, if they think that they're completely ready and it's just ready to go for our next test, let's go ahead and get it out of the park. As we talk more techie news, as we get into the portions of where now, for all the exciting people that were waiting for Red Dead Redemption to finally hit the market on PC, November 5th, you'll be able to get that directly in the Red Dead launcher, in the Epic Store, and I believe one other vendor that's not Steam until the very end of the month, which Steam will have access to. It kind of sucks, but it seems like Steam is just getting the bad end of the deals on a lot of these situations, unfortunately, for as far as that. But the game players are going to be promised new bounties, a few add-on missions for their tailored to the PC, as well as in the intermediate point of pushing forward is better graphics. So they're basically going to be tailored into just the PC as it ports directly over. I will be getting that probably more likely on the 5th in order to basically experience the better graphics on my 2080 Ti, and hopefully we'll experience a really cool update driver with that for Nvidia that I'll be able to cover. So if you are new to the network, you can definitely always drop a subscription. Who knows? Maybe we can like save Captain Planet. All subscription humor aside, in the middle episode, one of the fun things that I'm starting to get into understanding where the technology is now that Samsung, as well as the other distributor that was making the Cinnamon Nanoman processes for a majority of the most hottest chiplet and the wafer industry that we've been seeing kind of fly off, that we are going to be seeing a bigger portion of what we can have as production value, though they are talking about a shortage hitting us very soon, even worse than what we've already experienced, which would be horrible. We don't want to have that in that situation because we want to be able to push out the technology. As you can kind of see that the 3900X now is becoming a little bit more accessible directly inside the States, but outside the States it is still becoming very hard, as well as certain regions within the States, in order to access this processor, which is a pretty cheap but very powerful processor on the market, as well as the BIOS fixes that they've been releasing across the boards with the motherboards, and we've been able to see the clock speeds for AMD finally hit what they wanted to. So it's nice to see as the Theadripper line finally edges towards the November mark, and we start seeing like, as well as the 16 core, the very first commercialized desktop 16 core hit as far as people, that we will be seeing some major numbers being put down by AMD, which is really great. I'm very happy to see like what they're going to be bringing to the table, and then it looks like it might even be able to beat the portionable points of what I have in my 2950X for as far as being the sweet spot for workstation as well as gaming processing, for as far as like it's not the world's best, not Intel, where as far as you can encode stuff really fast, and I do understand that, but for as far as having best of both worlds without having to switch a PC, it definitely what comes into standpoint of actually be doing good stuff, especially with tests like this, where I can couple it with a really great GPU and get some amazing results. So, with everything being said instead, as we can kind of see our PowerPoint of interest coming into testing, we're almost at the very last test. We should see our karate fighters here in a second, like our, what is it, It's like some kind of like water soldier and like some kind of crazy ass ethereal lava monster or something like that. Like I don't, I'm not quite sure how this works out, but it's like a battle of fire and ice. Not long, I guess, idiom portionable point. But as we round about inside of a portion of fire and ice, which is pretty cool, you can see that as far as technology of what we've been getting at past that, I'm very excited to see as far as what we're going to be pushing out as the Zen 3 talk starts to kind of go into. One of the things that they were talking about Zen 4 is like, I guess in a lot of the forums they are directly for as far as like AMD looking at to it, they are looking to actually physically push forward for as far as having some really cool stuff on the market and the situational point of taking suggestions from people. So I definitely like that for as far as like the way people can now reach out to others and like actually say, hey, you know, we would really like this 32 core awesomeness and all this other really cool stuff. But as we kind of get into the situation of where the gameplay is, let's go ahead and benchmark compare our tests to see if the Ultra Strike from the first test and the Ultra Strike from the last test even panned out to even be profitable point of being a good result test. So 87%, not that bad, but if we go and scroll down to the Ultra, that was an insanely good step up. As you can see, the Fire Strike comparatively right there, without an overclock, with just showing bare bones, there was an increasement just by that, which is insane, by like almost like 150 direct. So they did a really great job, and maybe the Vulkan code that was having the, I guess, issues may have been holding back the newer update, and now we're starting to see even some more Ultra Instinct moves from like the GPU side of Nvidia. So this is great. You know, I love the competition that like both companies have been having with each other, as well as like Intel getting into the market. I'm very interested to see where they're going to go. But let's go ahead and run our Port Royale, which is another very heavy test integrated inside of the situation, as well as I'm going to shut down the Steam. I'm sure that has its own lagging points because this is just running very direct. So far post install, this update's really good. I highly suggest if people were having issues with the other ones that this would be a very good install to directly port over, especially if you're part of the Tom Clancy's new video game that's coming into play, or the very end of the month where you have the Outer Worlds finally dropping, and that's going to be like another situation that kind of comes into gameplay for as far as what we can see and really cool stuff. Like I'm like super stoked about that game. It's like Fallout but in space. It's gonna blow our minds. You can see the temps as well as the sound kind of looks like it went off. Majority of the sound decibels like I try to put in the very beginning just to kind of show off for as far as what's going down inside the tests. Let me see if I can go ahead and click that one back on real quick. And as the Port Royale test begins, I'm assuming we should be hitting gameplay within a few seconds as we have everything loaded up. Hey, what's up? I see Mr. Tyler Durden, or Thunder, should I say. You've been up on those updates. I noticed there was a new No Man's Sky update that drops I have not covered yet. I'm going through situational points of catching up on my updates, and this was on the list as well as that. But good stuff. I mean, everything all in all together, this is a great update. And let's see what happens as we get into the port right here. Looking good so far. I want to say we'll probably beat the score maybe by 50, nothing super extreme. Just for the simple reason that, like, well, a lot of performanceable points would probably come from more than likely the non, like, let me utilize every single portion of your damn GPU all at once, because that's what this is doing. Tensor cores and CUDA cores are all dancing around. I am liking that, like, Nvidia also had a really great portion of the way of utilizing their Tensor Core with integrated green screen. I got to experience that when I was down at TwitchCon with OBS creators, and I was able to kind of sit down and see what they were doing, and it was really cool to see that like they have something now where it's like you don't even have to have a green screen, and it completely just obliterates everything in the background except for yourself, and it looks really good. So imagine if you had a really good green screen and then you tossed it on top of there, well, your world just became so much more interesting. or as far as production values as you can be anywhere in the world now, rather than just having to be exclusively just at one point in portion of being limited by a good green screen or being limited by just having to go to places. That's one of the cool things. You have a friend out in like New York, like, hey, snap a picture of this. Let me see this, and there you are. You're making cool stuff. So let's go ahead and compare our test. I'm saying it probably did slaughter it. Let's see here. Details. Not too shabby. I'm still not in my overclocked mode. I could very easily do that if I wanted to. And then Royale test. So it wasn't a huge improvement at all for as far as the way that it directly dropped on top of there, but there is an improvement. And for that, in general standpoint, being pushed at 4K, I mean, that's pretty big for as far as the way that it would intertwine itself. Now let's go ahead and do the bare bones. I feel like we'll end the test really quick. I can definitely probably get an overclock in if I wanted to, but I feel like just trying to benchmark itself against each other as its own test as it goes into, it's probably one of the better ones you kind of get into. What I want to see is direct increasements of most people that are not doing anything, or people that are just running the bare bones on DirectX 11. And seeing like what their scores in. And we'll end it like this because I did run a Firestrike directly and I wanted to see what the improvements would be directly involved inside of this test. As well as we're making some great time. I think we've covered the news, we covered like majority of the newer technology that's coming out, and ran some tests in the process to kind of showcase before and after installs, as you can kind of see as we both ran directly, as in the install pre and post in the situation. I know the last one I did for AMD, I just kind of like chopped it up really fast in order to do it, because like I do feel like the testing indirectly inside of there sometimes is a little bit more finicky. And I'm glad I did, because I always run into issues with AMDs when I'm doing patch notes, as well as where Nvidia, I just very smoothly, I don't have to do anything. It's just so easy. I can actually just talk about the news and showcase a great like run in a time run that I'm trying to beat, and a whole bunch of cool stuff. And if we can beat this test, I say probably in under 19 minutes, I might do a very lightweight overclock, maybe just to see if like what ends up happening. I do know the sweet spots for as far as it, and see if we can, what's the highest we can kind of get it really fast. I have to search to see what my other scores were versus my Threadripper. They would be back in the very tail end of it, just for the simple reason that I've swapped around the GPUs and the different CPUs and coupling points. I guess my Intel may have the faster clock rate, but it doesn't have the, I don't know, 4 times the amount of cores that it can kind of pass the portionable work onto when it comes down to certain testing portions. So it's like each processor has its pros and cons with either the CPUs that I've noticed for as far as the integration of either of them, or for as far as trying to stream stuff. Sometimes you can get into a nightmare, like when you're trying to deal with the wrong CPU, GPU, HTTP send. It's complicated, but you learn through time, trial, and experience and error how to make these things work. If this isn't working, trying to direct pass through, or having fun situation will, I guess, conflicts become a weapon of knowledge later on down the road is always a fun thing to walk away from with tech challenges, because I feel like that ends up being a lot of them. And as you can see, we can come down to the Firestrike test. It comes down to the very tail end, and this is going to be more of like the huffing and puffing you'd see from the processor rather than the actual GPU right now. So the situation will point just clean shop at almost like 100 FPS, which is pretty good. So as you can see, where Nvidia is trying to aim now that they're trying to get to where if the sources are correct with the 1660 and the clock speed being roughly about 1793 is what I've been hearing for as far as what they're doing, and this is just very early leaks, and the one leak that it did come from directly, which if I remember correct, was from Red Gaming Tech, their source, which is extraordinarily reliable from what I was hearing them talk about, is saying that this is going to be something that they're aiming towards for as far as like the standard clock speed, which is not that bad. That's actually a pretty good situation of what they've been running the processing point in order to separate and distinguish the 1660 Super that they're directly just trying to just integrate the whole market over to the Super versions. Now, personally myself, I would probably want to see what ends up happening at CES at the very beginning of the year to see what they're going to be thinking and what they're going to be doing. Okay, so we have a direct test and just a normal Firestrike. Nothing special about this at all. But let's see where we rank in. We might be lower, we might be better. 98% of the world is pretty good, but as we kind of look directly right here as the 24, now you can see distinguishable change. And see, this is why I like running variable tests, to show that not every single department inside of there is going to be in a refresh rate that's going to be better than the other one. As you can see on the very bottom, it is a 2482 72 for the test that was run a little earlier, versus now that we ran it with the install, now we're down to a 24. I know I said 21, so 248720 would be like roughly about like where you'd want to aim if you were like, you know, 3 or 4 like freaking like graphics cards probably hooked up together would be insane. Probably not, but all humor aside, you know, 2487.2 is not that bad of a test, versus where you go up and you can see that it's dropped roughly about 600 in like the testing portions of it. So kind of a little bit different. It could have been just maybe it was from that sweet spot of not running a Port Royal right after the heat distribution, because the last time I ran a test after that was the Firestrike Ultra. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it directly right there as far as the situation. I could do an overclock, and I know I could slaughter the crap out of like those scores directly. Yes, probably almost get like majority of like great scores, but I want to keep this one kind of short for as far as patch notes go. We've seen a direct installment. It might be that just maybe the lower end Firestrike test for the 1080p, where the market's changing from the 1440 as well as the 4K scene is finally starting to roll out and is an acceptable format of entertainment. Now we're directly seeing like more improvements more towards those in the tail end, versus where the bottom end maybe might be waiting for the next patch to directly come out. So if you have experienced any weird things down below, drop a comment. I would love to hear what you guys and gals have to say about what your graphics card is doing. And if you can, let me know, what GPU are you rocking along with this update if you have installed it directly in your experiences along that way that's driven you to have a comment directly down below. And if you're new to the network, you can always hit a subscription. Helps me as a creator and is absolutely free. And if you do, Bengal tigers will learn how to fly. And that's probably very awesome, but also very dangerous. So I don't know. You choose the world you want to live in. But all subscription humor aside, thank you so much for staying tuned. And I'll see you guys and gals in the near future for a little bit more of different gameplays as I kind of clear off the patch note lists.